is going on, everybody? It's Carl here, and today we're going to be taking the axles out of the rear end, cleaning up the excess paint, and then we're going to get the backing plates bolted on, and then we'll put the axles back in and start assembling the disc brakes. I already went ahead and I repainted the brake booster. It actually looks a lot better. I actually did not end up using the high heat primer and the engine enamel. The reason being is I was reading this can and you need to bake this to fully cure it to make it more durable. I didn't realize that. It doesn't say on this can that you have to do that, but this one you definitely do. And or you can run it with the car on to bake it, but they're expecting you to have this on an engine or something and really bake it instead of just having something near the engine, right? So I didn't use it. What I did is I just scuffed the brake booster really good. Went with this Krylon Fusion all-in-one. It's actually paint and primer. It's the stuff I use to paint the inside of the car. Works good. It actually looks really good too. I mean, there's some obviously dirt nibs. We are in a dirty, filthy garage, so there's going to be dirt nibs, but it's nice and glossy and it actually looks fairly decent. So I'm pretty happy with it, and that'll be dry within an hour or so. So first things first, I need to find the socket to take off the two bolts for the diff cover. And then I think I'm going to need an 8mm socket or wrench to take out the diff pin bolt, pop the diff pin out, and then we can get the C-clips out, pull the axles out, and then I'll probably just clean up the seals because there is some stuff from, grinding and doing whatever, wire wheeling and all that. And then we can mount the, we'll clean up the backing plates, and then we'll mount the backing plates on. So yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. All right, the diff cover is all clean, and next thing I got to do is I got to use a thread chaser on the housing itself, because when I was 16 I used gasket maker instead of actually just buying a diff cover gasket, and obviously the bolt holes are all full of gasket maker, so we want to get all that out so we can get the correct torque on the housing. I got the diff cover mounted on and torqued down. I also got the backing plates on, and then I test fitted the rotors. And what I actually had to do is the holes that they drilled for the studs, they weren't a true 1/2 inch hole, so I had to drill them out to 1/2 inch. It was just off by a little bit, but now they fit perfect. And so now we can grab the brake calipers and pads and we can get those mounted on, and then we're pretty much fill up the diff with fluid, and we'll have to level it a little bit better, and then we can fill it up with fluid, and then we should be good there. So I got one brake caliper mounted up for now, and I wanted to show you what I had to do. So there's this clip that goes around the caliper piston itself, right? And there's two little arms on the end, and that's supposed to hold the one brake pad, the inner brake pad. Well, they didn't bend the clip rights in the kit, so you see how the clips are now where they kind of bend outward, and instead they had the clips straight, so when you tried to put them on the brake pad, they're just popping off the piston and it's doing no good. Like, if I would have left them that way, they would have just fell out. So now, since I bent them a little bit, I modified them, and then I even modified the ends of the arms to kind of slant backwards a little bit to hold the pad better, and it seems to work decent. So, of course, you got to modify shit when you're changing stuff, that's hot rodding. So, but yeah, it took me about a half hour to figure it out on a YouTube video. And one YouTube video, I saw the guy's clip, and it looked just like the way I bent it here. And I'm like, oh, well, that explains why nothing's lining up. So yeah, so I'm going to get this one on, get the pads in. We're going to then mount it on the rotor and all that. All right, so I got the rubber hoses kind of just loosely on there right now. and I have the original hardline brake line on. And so what I need to do, since I'm out of welding gas, I have to go get some welding gas, but we got to weld these tabs on, and this one's probably going to go right about here. You know, I'm not really worried, maybe even a little further up, not really sure yet. But since I'm not going to have a spring here, we're going to have a coilover that goes to the front. This will be perfect to sit like this somewhere in here, and then we'll just have to adapt this line, shape it, and get it to go, you know, wherever this is going to mount in here. And then on this side, it looks like we're going to have this tab probably right about here, and then we'll kind of shape this line and get a nice flare nut on there, and that'll work perfect like that. So it won't be too hard, and then obviously this end is just going to go right back to the old brake lines on the body, and that should be good there. So yeah, let's head to Northern Tool, and you know, I already got the old welding gas tank off, ready to go, so we just got to swap it out, and yeah, let's do it. Here is an update of where I am at. So I welded on the brake hose brackets, right? And I actually had to kind of custom make them because, one, the thickness of the flange wasn't thick enough to match kind of the inner part there. So when you put the clip in, it was just all loosey-goosey. It's like, oh my gosh. So one, I had to make them thicker. So what I did was I added a washer, welded all the way around, ground down, you know, pretty much had to remake the size of the hole too. And then just weld them on. And that seemed to work great. It was just very time consuming. And so I had to make two of them pretty much. You know, they're not the prettiest looking brackets, but they'll work, right? So, and then all I did was I kind of ground around just a little bit, and then I scuffed the, you know, the black and the rust encapsulator that was underneath, and then I kind of just brushed it in, kind of feathered it in. So now tomorrow I can just go spray bomb it, just, you know, just dust it in all the way around, and we should be good. So it should blend in pretty nice. But yeah, at least we got the brackets where we need them now. I already tightened down the hoses, so when I go slide the hose in, once the paint's dry, and put the clip in, it should fit just fine. And then all we got to do is figure out a way to adapt these lines to these. Shouldn't be too bad, you know, a couple fittings, maybe straighten out the lines a little bit, kind of get them to fit the way we need it, and we should be good to go. So I painted the brackets, and then I also installed the hose ends with the clip, so they are 100% ready to go. I tightened down the hoses, and I actually went ahead and I adjusted the calipers. That's going to be in a separate video. I'll put the link in the description for that. And then I also added the e-brake cables. So we have e-brake cables ready to go. And then once we get this bolted in the car, we'll have to figure out how we can get these cables attached to the original cable underneath the car. So last thing I want to do on this rear end, and this is going to pretty much finish it up, is I decided I'm not going to use these brake lines. They're just going to be too difficult. And so what we're going to do is we're still going to use these fittings here on these two, and then we're just going to make our own lines, because adapting this to that, it's going to be too complicated. So I'm going to take off the lines, cut the lines so we can get those fittings off, and then we're going to start to make our own. So I made some custom brake lines, as you can see. We got it going from the hose to the little block, and then on the other side we got the brake line running down, following the clip, and boom, right to that hose. It's not my greatest work, as you can see. That is something I struggled with this, trust me. This one came out a little better, but it was just a hair too long, and there wasn't the right amount of bends in it. You know, maybe I bent this just a little too much. This should have been a little, you know what I mean? It's not my greatest work, but it's done. Everything's tight, everything fits. So pretty much this is going to be just hook up and go, if you know what I mean, and then bleed the brakes, obviously. So we got that covered for now. Really, I'm kind of sick of working on this. I really just want to start doing like fuel lines on this, getting all that done, getting the wiring done. And then we can start putting the heat shields in, exhaust back in, you know, stuff like that. But I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.